Hello, nice to meet you. This is Richgo Kim Ki-hyun. Today, I would like to have a discussion about real estate with our top practical investment expert, Mehdi.
Nice to meet you.
These days, it's clear that, as you mentioned when you came last time, certain aspects of the market that were definitely overheated are cooling down. What do you think about that?
Since mid to late July, the real estate market has clearly been in a cooling state. And the real estate agents on the ground say it's because of the vacation season.
I mentioned that in August. When I posted the video, some people asked me, "Why don't you know this, representative? Isn't it because it's vacation season?" So I asked, what kind of person am I? It's all about the data. I immediately analyzed it and showed them. Even during that time, it was vacation. But do you see how the market was still heating up?
So, even if it's vacation season, if there's money to be made, people won't take a break.
What's the big deal about a vacation?
In fact, even non-existent annual leave was created, but it was maintained like that until mid-August. So, when we look at the figures for August around mid-August, it shows that there were almost fewer than 1,000 transactions based on the real estate transaction volume in Seoul. In July, the transaction volume exceeded 7,000 cases. And before the count for August was finalized, it was around 790 cases. Then it increased to about 1,000 cases. But after the announcement of loan regulations on August 21st, there was a surge in demand, leading to a jump to 2,700 and 800 cases.
That's right.
So there was a significant increase in transaction volume this last week. And Richgo has a feature that allows us to view the transaction volume weekly. We can also look at it daily. Oh, even daily.
Up to the daily figures. So now we are continuously monitoring the actual transaction prices. Let me show you this briefly. Let's take a look at the recent data. This is daily data, as you can see. So, it was heating up like this on May 25th, June 1st, and June 8th. And the peak was on June 29. After that, it started to gradually decrease. And by July 30, was the data fully collected? Or not?
Not yet. The one from July.
Why hasn't it been done yet?
Now, the July thing is now. That's fine.
That's right, since it's September. If we look at the September data, the last aggregation date is September 1st.
That's right. It's been 2 months.
That's right. So, the actual transaction prices up until the end of July have all been compiled, correct? But, as you can see, around July 30th, what do you think? No, it's really cooled down now, hasn't it? It's completely cooled off, right? So, if you look at it daily, this is the last train that took off on August 10th. Now, let's take a look at this on a weekly basis. This will be provided. So, of course, it hasn't all been tallied yet. This is data from the end of July and August, and as you can see, there is a clear difference in temperature in the transaction volume between the end of July and the beginning of August.
So even before all the data was collected, it had already halved. Initially, around mid-month, it was only about 1/10 of what it used to be. Previously, during the hot months of June and July, it had risen to about half. In July, before the data for June was collected, it was still relatively high. However, it is now clear that the atmosphere has cooled down significantly since August. And especially by October, when all the data up to the end of August is collected, I think we will feel the difference in temperature even more. And now, it's Chuseok. Around Chuseok, the atmosphere is likely to change dramatically, and I think there are many people who are feeling a bit anxious right now.
Why did you do that? You shouldn't act out of fear.
So especially for those who are talking about buying a home recently, particularly for those who bought in June and July.
The prices are rising significantly.
People who bought at prices that suddenly jumped by 100 million or 200 million in an instant, and those who got on the last train really set the highest price themselves. So those people are feeling extremely anxious right now. Oh, really? Yes. And in reality, many consultations or cases come in where people say, I bought this, but I regret it so much. After the accident, I started to worry about this and regret that. I feel like if I don't buy now, I won't be able to buy at all and will never own a home. Before buying, I thought I would become a sudden homeless person. But now that I have a house, I worry that if the prices peak and then drop, I might really go bankrupt. So, there is a difference between the worries before buying and those after the accident. But the worrying can continue regardless. The problem is that after the accident, I should feel at ease.
That's right.
In order for that to happen, one must be prepared. If an unprepared person gets swept up in the atmosphere and makes a purchase, it can lead to a situation where they feel even more anxious after the fact.
That's right. But I feel like I've been studying the real estate market for almost 15 years now. By the way, Midi, have you traveled anywhere recently?
What about overseas?
Have you ever traveled, bought something worth over 1 million won, or perhaps worked? Since I've only traveled domestically and haven't gone to expensive places, what I want to say is that when we make any expenditures, we think about it, right? We compare, analyze, and study it. But what is the most expensive thing in our lives? It's a house, right? Even when we buy a car worth several tens of millions of won, we compare, scrutinize, and gather information so much. But a house is much more expensive than a car. Yet why do people get swept up in the atmosphere when buying a house?
I asked that question. Why is that? There was someone who honestly asked why they don't think more carefully about what they should do. When I asked that person, they said that this is such a vast area that they are too afraid to make a decision. So, since I am not an expert here, is it right for a non-expert like me to make a decision? And can I really take responsibility for this? I started to think that it might be better to listen to an expert rather than relying on myself, so I decided to listen to the expert's advice. But the problem here is that one should make their own decisions based on expert advice rather than just listening to the experts and applying their words without consideration. It's not just about saying, buy real estate in Seoul right now, or it's not the right time now. Hearing this, they ended up putting their own money in and ultimately had to take responsibility themselves, but found themselves in a situation where no one was at fault, which left them very confused.
I think this is really unfortunate. I mean, I spent over 50 million won to study the real estate market, but shouldn't ordinary people have to invest at least 500,000 won? Shouldn't they be spending at least 50,000 won?
You can save or create 500 million won by investing 500,000 won.
So, is there a good way to prepare for buying a house?
I'll let you know about that. And I've thoroughly prepared for this topic. And after I bought my house, I really bought it for 100 million won, less than the market price. Oh, really? Yes, I've experienced a rebound in prices, just 2 to 3 months later. So, I've been thinking about that, and I know from practical examples. And when I share this method with others, the results are really great. That's why I started studying real estate and sharing these methods with many people. And the effectiveness is truly outstanding. Now, could you share a bit more specifically about what those methods are? Let me give you a straightforward example. Whether a person knows this or not directly determines whether they will lose money.
Oh, this one.
So I paid the deposit. I did. But then I suddenly realized the reality of the situation.
You said many people recently.
I bought it wrong.
Oh,
Should I give up the deposit?
saying you'll forfeit the deposit.
There are many people like,
Are
yes, it's worth 1 billion. They are giving up the deposit.
deposit.
It's tens millions won.
Well, if there are any such people, if you give me 1/10 of the deposit, I will kindly provide you with consultation. Or is our Mehdi going to do it? How much is the deposit? Is it reasonable to think about throwing this away?
So I asked that person, are you really going to give up on that money, which is not a small amount? They have 1 billion or 2 billion at stake, and a few tens of millions is relatively small, right? If they thought that way, they should have invested properly, spending a few 100,000 won to learn properly, so they wouldn't even have such concerns in the first place, right? If I say I'm fully prepared, that itself is not true because I wasn't able to do it, but still, just knowing this can help me recover the deposit.
What is this?
There is a way to get the deposit back even if I suddenly change my mind about not buying the item.
Oh, really?
Yes, I know that method.
So it's like this. I was so tempted that I went ahead and paid the earnest money.
But you can fully get this back.
Oh,
Yes, that method.
I think I need to go listen too. What should I do about this?
Knowing this method can truly make the difference between heaven and hell. Even if millions of one can be lost in an instant, it allows you to recover your money. So, in the real estate sector, it's not just that knowledge is power. It's that knowledge is money.
Knowledge is money. Knowledge is money.
Not only that, but there are many know-how and tips that you need to know when preparing to buy your own home in various fields. Each of those things is like a precious gem, and all related to money. So even if you go to see the same property, the way you ask questions can lead to different offers from the seller. The condition and price will vary.
If you spend a lot of money, you get good things.
No. And depending on which real estate agent you meet, the type of house you encounter can vary. So there are also know-how on how to choose that agent. So you need to be aware of these very detailed aspects in order to save money and protect your assets as much as possible. However, without that knowledge, you might just get swept away by the atmosphere and end up making decisions.
It seems that many people are going through some tough situations. No, this is really shocking. I mean, how can one even think about losing their deposit? It's not just a small amount for them.
No, but it's more than I thought.
So, I find this very strange. One should thoroughly contemplate and consider such concerns before making a purchase. So why is there such a sense of urgency? In my view, this was just something I bought in a rush. It's like being possessed by something, you know? I ended up signing the contract without even realizing it.
Because when you go to the real estate, the owners say, oh, this is really flashy, so if you don't act now, it will be gone. The next person is waiting. It makes me feel like if I don't make a decision now and send the deposit, the property will disappear and I won't be able to buy it.
But there is that aspect as well. For ordinary people, usually, from the perspective of a broker, they have to make sales. After all, I need to sell this in order to make money. There, the so-called cuckoo is being thrown, and some players are indeed throwing the cuckoo, thinking inside, there are some things that can be done. Now, people who have never talked about their own homes tend to believe this naively.
That's right.
That could lead to such a situation.
In fact, I have seen some people who send a deposit without even being able to see the house.
You're sending a deposit without even seeing the house.
Yes. This house is really great and it's a bargain, but I can't even see the house right now because of these circumstances. They only offer such a low price to those who are ready to decide. I have seen cases where people say things like that without even looking at the house. In real estate, you really encounter a variety of situations and variables related to money, and when that happens, it's important to know how to respond. You should be able to say, if that's the case, then I'll look at something else. But those who lack such criteria can easily get swept away and respond with, oh really? But I feel like if I miss this, I might have to pay more later, so I'm focused on the approaching deadline.
I just had a thought that we should include Mehdi's lectures as a general education course at our university. Isn't it really important? So, in fact, these are really important decisions we make in life, like real estate decisions. Shouldn't we be educating students in university about how to make these decisions, how to understand the monthly world, and how to navigate the global landscape?
I think it's crucial education for young professionals.
Yes. If there are any university officials watching, I think it would be fine to invite our professor, Mehdi, and create a general liberal arts course.
No one offers economic education.
Right. No one does it.
Just go ahead and ask whatever you want through someone you know, but honestly, when you meet a chick, it's still just a chick. The truth is that this is where the problem lies. If you study properly, just once, it becomes a lifelong skill that you can use and apply throughout your life. I think it's worth investing some time and effort into that.
And I can see how this person will turn out in the future. I can see everything about how this person will turn out just by looking at these two things. What are they? The most important thing is what? You need to look at how you are investing in yourself, whether you are investing in yourself or not. Investment means upgrading your software through education, books, and other resources. You need to expand the limits of your knowledge in this area. Additionally, depending on how much time you spend on your physical health, your physical well-being will vary. So ultimately, whether you are doing this or not, and the extent of it, will reveal your future. For those watching this video, do you think real estate is just something you can leave to the real estate agent and simply buy without study or understanding? Of course, by doing so, you might be lucky enough to meet a really good real estate agent and find a great home. But the really important thing is that there are truly too many scummy, pathetic people in the world. There are many who appear otherwise on the surface. It's wild, isn't it? It's wild. But if I appear to be an easy target here, I become prey. That's how the world works. Therefore, I must never let myself appear weak or vulnerable. So what should I do? I need to study. And what is this? This is definitely not something that just flies away. I have never thought that spending that money on education is a waste. And I think it's a waste when I read 100 books a year. I've never thought otherwise. Personally, when I read a book, I think that I earn 2,000,001 for each one. I really do. It's the same when I attend lectures. That's why I really want to live my life properly and make sure I take good care of my own home. But no one really tells you these kinds of things. If I can learn such incredibly important content at a certain cost, I believe I can extract value far beyond that. Additionally, the media I have observed closely is one of the few truly genuine real estate experts with real experience. Therefore, I think that attending lectures related to Medi will be very helpful.
There is no theory at all. Everything can be applied directly in reality, because what are you going to do with the theory you learn? Honestly, when students are in school, they ask, why do we learn math? Why do we learn science? Why do we learn English? But this is something that can really be used in the field, in reality. Since I will focus only on that, I will fill it with practical know-how that you can use right away. So you won't have a moment to be bored. I will make sure to deliver good content to you.
And since it is a very good skill that we can use for 10, 20, 50, or even 100 years once we learn it, please take an interest. There will likely be a link in this pinned comment where you can sign up for the lecture. So please don't think of it as just a lecture. Rather, consider it as a great opportunity to learn valuable skills and know-how that can truly help you with your own home. I think it would be beneficial for those who are interested to give it a try. Shall we wrap it up like this?
I'm also reading that book. It's called The Law of Inconvenience. It's in my bag right now. I brought it with me in case I have some time in between to take notes. Taking notes too. Yes, I definitely need to take notes, because it's such a waste for the content of the book to just be forgotten after reading. So, sometimes I review what I've transcribed again, and I find that it stays with me quite a bit.
That's right. So, a truly good book shouldn't be read just once. It should be read several times.
That book may seem like a very obvious story, but I think it's a book that only those who understand its depth can truly appreciate, as it's not something that can be easily expressed in a simple way. Because those who just skim the surface might think it's a cliche. But I feel like it's a book that really resonates with me.
But life is pretty predictable, right? I mean, if you want to become rich, you have to cut down on spending, right? If you save, you'll become rich, right? Do you want to do well in real estate? You just need to study. So, before investing, you should study, and then you can become an expert in real estate. The methods are quite obvious, but the real important point is who consistently does this. Obvious thing, and who doesn't. So, you might think this lecture is just a typical lecture, but it's definitely not. Give it a listen. And as we talk about the book, it turned out this way. Our Medi is also someone who studies a lot.
I have been participating in a reading group for 3 years. I continue to do so, and the book is about the immutable laws. However, some people might think that the discussions and reviews are too obvious, so I constantly touch on that point. The more we talk about it, the more I realize it is a very profound book.
Such people talk critically no matter what is said. It can't be helped. Those kinds of people should be excluded. So, shouldn't we have a meeting to discuss my book on big data real estate investment? Shouldn't we make it a priority? My book, yes.
I will suggest a recommended investment.
This concludes today's video.
Thank you. Are you going to use that all the way to the back?
So what? It's fun, isn't it? It feels natural.
I thought it was a private conversation.